welcome to our sold out immigration workshop. My name is Adrienne Castro. I work at Studio Legale Metta as the client experience manager, and I do marketing also for the law firm. And I'm just going to go over a couple of housekeeping duties here. And before we kind of fully get started, let me just look at my notes. And it's always nice to know sometimes where people are zooming in from, so you can feel free to add that if you like to the group chat, your call. We are going to have people, so we talked about that we would do a Q&A at the end, the last like 15, 20 minutes of our time together. You can send your questions, any questions that you might have, to Sari. Sari's name on the chat is admin Sari. And you can send in the chat directly to her. So not in the group chat, because then that will make it a little difficult for her to comb through and get those questions that she's going to end up sending to us to answer at the end of the workshop. So to her directly. So, you know, make sure you're sort of selecting her from your chat options when you want to send in questions, if you want to send in questions. We want those questions, though, you know, try and keep them concise so that it'll be easier to share it with the group. And also just to understand that, you know, we won't be able to answer anything or address any personal issues. So if you're like, well, I'm trying to do this and I have a this and my husband, and, you know, so we'll kind of need to keep it sort of generic so that it's useful for the entire group to be a part of. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to turn it over now to our managing partner at the law firm. His name is Nick Metta. Many of you know him because you've seen him interviews, YouTube, podcasts, all kinds of things. He's sort of been the person that you might have come across on various channels of social media. So I'm going to turn it over to him and kind of let him get us started. Nick, you're muted.
Yes, thank you so much, Adrienne. Thanks a lot. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's so exciting. And as Adrienne said, I am the managing partner of an Italian law firm Studio Legale Metta. Probably you can read it here. We are an Italian law firm assisting people, basically helping people navigate Italian bureaucracy, bridging the cultural, geographic, and also cultural gap that might be for people who are not Italian or who don't live in Italy, who don't know the Italian system. So just a little bit about myself and how all this started. I am an Italian born. I was born and raised in Italy until like 30s. Then up to that point, I practiced tax law, real estate, and estate planning. And then I met the woman that then became my wife. She's an American woman. We lived in Italy for a little bit, and it was such a struggle to have her legally in Italy. You guys, probably some of you know already what I'm talking about. I mean, think about me never having done anything about immigration law and being bounced back and forth between offices, Comune, Questura, immigration office, and Patronato, CUF, this, that. Everyone knew what the solution was, but only to find out the hard way after 2-hour after 2-hour line, and sometimes rude employees, and that was not the right way to go. So eventually, after months of struggle, countless amount of time to work on it, we managed to get her the wrong document, of course, a permesso di soggiorno. We were married. She shouldn't have gone for the permesso. She should have gone for the carta di soggiorno. However, long story short, I swore to myself, I will never, ever do immigration law, ever, because it's impossible. Nobody knows anything, not even at the competent offices level. So even if I wanted to, it would be impossible to figure this out. And then, let alone in my own town, what if someone asked me for something in another township, in another town where they have their own rules? Because Because I love Italy. Every single one of the 8,000 comune literally have their own set of rules. So I swore to myself. And then next thing you know, obviously we decided to make our life a little bit more exciting. So we started moving back and forth between Italy and the US, having children, first, second, and third. And then eventually we moved to the US. And so I got in contact with more and more people who would buy homes through our help, estate planning, and they constantly needed help for immigration matters. And so we decided to, you know what, let's try to figure this out. We worked extremely hard, and I was very lucky to meet Antonio Cammarano, who's here today. We started working on immigration and citizenship cases because very often they go hand in hand. And we figured out several ways to assist people in a very successful manner, and training sometimes local authorities and local representatives, I should say, about what law says, what should the correct path be, and really with a lot of obviously respect, because you got to respect them. You need to make sure that they know that they have the power. You don't want to tell them, this is the law, you got to do what I tell you to do, because that's obviously it's not going to lead you to any positive result. And so after working very hard and talking with consulate offices, with Comune, with Questura offices, the immigration office, we are very proud now that we have a very successful practice where we assist hundreds of people every year achieving their dream, moving to Italy, doing, can be a 1 year sabbatical, can be change of life, can be the next experience and see what life holds for me, and we'll see in a year or two what happens. So and as lawyers, we are extremely excited and happy to work on situations where the end result is the achieving a dream. Really, it's not really a dispute. Many lawyers do litigation. That this practice is not about litigation; it's about pursuing a dream. So that's very also professionally and humanly satisfactory. So since Antonio is the one who fights every day with Comune, Questura, immigration offices, and does all that day in and day out, with all the day-to-day minute bureaucratic adjustments from Comune to Comune, I'm going to leave the panel to him, thanking him again for what he does for all our clients, managing a team of very, very passionate and empathetic people who tirelessly really work every day for this purpose. So thank you very much. And the panel is back to you, Antonio.
Actually, I'm going to jump in for just a second, because I wanted to introduce, before we have Antonio kind of start going through some of the options that he's prepared to talk about in terms of staying in Italy for longer than 90 days. We're super excited to have a special guest with us today, Kathy McCabe, who I'm sure most all of you know from her amazing series on PBS called Dream of Italy. She also does so many other things. She has, memberships. She has, I think, a cruise coming up. She has a new series coming out with really exciting guests. So she's going to talk a little bit about her journey, about her relationship to Italy, and her pursuit of her citizenship journey, her immigration stuff, that kind of stuff. So she's going to speak a little bit and share her journey. Kathy. Hold on, she is muted.
Yeah, it's unmute. Yay.
Okay.
I thought I was already, Nick was going into the dream. He was talking about the dream and I was all ready. So that was my cue. Yes. So thank you so much for both having me here. We've enjoyed working together a bit over the last year. I don't even know where to start. 21 years ago, I founded a membership website site and travel magazine called Dream of Italy. And my entire dream, I'm going to start crying, is based on the fact that my grandfather really wanted to find and see the town that his father had come from in Campania and Avellino. And he had tried to find it in the 60s. He was taken to the wrong town and he didn't have time to find the right one. In 1995, my mother and I found it, Castelvettere sul Calore near Pigna. And 36 hours later, my grandfather at the age of 93 passed away in the US. So it is very personal to me, Italy and this dream. And it all started with my ancestors. So that was, so long ago. I started the membership site and newsletter, and now it's a beautiful magazine, Dream of Italy. And this is our most recent issue, which you could get if you join. I always love the cover. And we have 200 back issues. And then about 8-9 years ago, I turned it into a PBS series. And you can actually go and pbs.org was having some technical difficulties. But if you go to YouTube and you put in like Dream of Italy, Castelvettere, Ancestry, you can see my story. And I brought my parents to our ancestral hometown. Sadly, they have both passed away since then, but it's the most satisfying thing I've ever done. You don't have to be on TV to go and find your ancestral hometown. And I absolutely encourage you to do it. It was the most life-changing thing that's ever happened to me and has really changed the course of my life. So in this process, if you are up for dual citizenship and you know where you're from, I would highly encourage you to go. And so 8-9 years ago, turned it into a PBS series. And, what have I seen happening in these years, especially the last 2, 3, 4 years, COVID, this absolute explosion of people wanting to live in Italy, wanting to spend more time in Italy. And so actually Nick and I met about this time last year, and I had a workshop called How to Plan an Extended Stay or Move to Italy for anyone who's a member. And we're doing it again in January. And we have a real estate agent and other expats. And it's definitely the legal part is the most fundamental part of this. Like you can't do anything if you can't have a visa or a way to go there. And as Nick mentioned, and his law firm is a sponsor of my new season on PBS. It's a blockbuster. We've got Marissa Tomei, and we go back. She and I have a common sort of ancestral area. Marissa Tomei's in it, Andrea Bocelli, Massimo Bottura, but we do a really interesting episode on Abruzzo. If you're looking to buy, you can still get the most beautiful house for like 100,000 euros, 30 minutes from the mountains, 30 minutes from the sea. It's a really unique position in Italy. We interviewed 4 American expats, most of whom were inspired by COVID, and they all went in different ways. So take my advice. My father used to say this, do as I say, not as I do. I have dragged my feet on my citizenship, in part because I had a challenge. I can't go a direct way. I have a 1948 case, which I'm sure you'll be explaining today. So I am pursuing my citizenship, but like I let it go for a few years. I'm like, I live here. I'm taking care of my parents. I don't really need it right away. Do it and do it now. Do it and do it now because you just never know. But in this episode, we see a couple who have an elective residency visa, which I'm sure you'll learn about today. I'm sure Nick can probably address this. There was a woman on a student visa. It used to be more and more common that people could get that visa and you can work for 20 hours a week. Well, she got it in Boston. I don't know if that's still possible. I've looked into getting it, but I have a little more of a chance of getting it because I need Italian for my job. So it is interesting that really even the focus of all of our content has changed to finding a place to rent for a couple of months. What are the visa regulations? How can I work there? How can I work remotely? And I hope Nick will give us the latest. Don't you love these articles that come out and they're like this vague sense of like, oh, Italy's going to have a digital nomad visa. Well, I'll believe it when I see it. They've been talking about that for years. So it's really important to.
That's right.
It's never going to.
You wish.
But I think people, and your role is so important, need to be educated about this and need to be educated about, like, so if you see on my show, I actually felt strange, Nick, this woman has a student visa. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know that people can really get those much anymore. So we mention it, but we don't go further into it. So everything is changing. And I've seen your posts a lot on LinkedIn. And, you know, even when we do our workshop in January, there's always new information. And I saw you've been able to do things faster. And I even wrote a comment to get anything done. Doing business in Italy has aged me terribly. It's also made me probably a better business person because, you know, if you can get through that, I mean, America's easy. So I do think you need an Italian, and I do think you need an Italian who really understands how it works, and who knows people who know people. Unfortunately, fortunately, that is Italy. But thank you for having me on. If people want to learn more about the series, the season, you put your zip code in so you can see the episodes, and then they'll be on pbs.org. Nick's firm, his name is on the beginning and the end of each episode. You go to dreamofitaly.com/season and then 3. And then the whole website, you can find the 21 years of content that I have there. And we also I love talking about where. I would own a place if I knew where. Where is an important part of the equation as well. So thank you for having me on today.
Thanks so much, Kathy. And everybody, you know, Kathy was mentioning dreamofitaly.com. I did put that in the chat. So if anybody wants to go see what's coming up on the new season, you know, it's linked in the chat. So you can just go right there and and go from there. Yeah, so okay, let's get to Antonio. Okay, so Antonio Cammarano, he is, I know Nick mentioned him a bit, but he is the senior associate who manages our immigration and citizenship practice at our law firm. So he and his team work on both sets of things, and he's going to sort of walk us through some of the major ways that you could come to Italy and stay for more than 90 days. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him get started.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Adrian, for introducing me. I'm so glad to be part of this workshop. And as you say today, I'm going to provide you with a sort of an overview of the possible options for non-European citizens to get to Italy and remain here for more than 90 days. But I just want to clarify why we are saying more than 90 days. We are saying more than 90 days because generally a non-European citizen who want to travel to Italy, even just for a few days, is required to get a visa, is required to file an application with the Italian consulate to get to Italy, even as I said, just for a few days. However, when the applicant comes from a country who signed a specific agreement, which is called Visa Waiver Program with the Italian government, it is possible to get to Italy and remain in Italy for maximum 90 days in 180 days period without applying for a visa. So the normal regulation requires the applicant to file a visa even just to get to Italy for a few days. But when you came from one of the countries I mentioned before, who signed the visa waiver program, it is possible to remain in Italy up to maximum 90 days. But what happens if you would like to remain in Italy for more than 90 days? In this specific case, as I said, you need to file a visa application with the Italian consulate, the Italian embassy, who covers the applicant's address. So today we are going to talk about the main visa option, the main Italian visa option that may give you the chance to get to Italy and remain in Italy for more than 90 days. Specifically, we are going to touch today the elective residence visa option that also Kathy mentioned before, the student visa option, some work Italian visa options, the investor visa that no one mentioned up to so far, and the medical visa. How we are going to investigate them? We are going to three important points. The first point is who can apply for those visas, which are the main requirements to get those visas, and which are the most important things that the applicant is required to take into account before filing the visa application. So let me start from the elective residence visa. It is important to clarify that the elective residence visa is one of the most common Italian visa option for non-European citizens to get to Italy. The elective residence visa, however, is only for people that like to move to Italy for good and that can economically support their stay in Italy without any need for them to work. So you can get in Italy under the elective residence visa if you generate active incomes. So this is not the sign for people who want to move to Italy just for a few months or just for 1-2 years. This is only for people who want to move to Italy permanently. But this doesn't mean that you're required to stay in Italy under the elective residence visa for 365 days per year. Which are the main important requirements of the elective residence visa? It is important to clarify that actually the main requirement to remain in Italy under the elective residence visa is to demonstrate to the Italian authority, in this case the Italian consulate, that the applicant has a solid financial situation and that he has some passive incomes that would allow him to remain in Italy without any need, as I said, for him to work. Then we have another important requirement, which is the Italian accommodation. So the applicant is required to demonstrate to the Italian consulate that he has an accommodation in Italy. It is important to clarify that he can meet this important requirement only filing a property title, which clarifies that the applicant has a property in his name, or when the applicant has at least a 12-month lease that should be registered with the Italian tax agency. Without the proof of the Italian accommodation for minimum 12 months, starting from the expected entry date in Italy, it is not possible to file the visa application. So I expect that the Italian consulate would reject the application if the applicant doesn't file the proof that he has an Italian accommodation. Another important requirement is the health insurance policy. So without the health insurance policy, which covers the applicant starting from the expected entry date in Italy, I expect that the visa application will not be accepted by the Italian consulate. Which are the main things that the applicant is required to take into account before filing the visa application? It is important to clarify that if the applicant relinquishes the elective residence visa, he can no longer apply for the visa again. So if you apply for the visa and you get the elective residence visa from the Italian consulate, this is going to be once in a lifetime. You cannot file the elective residence visa today, get the visa, get to Italy under the elective residence visa, and then after 5-7 years, if you change your mind, apply for the same visa again. Another important thing that you should take into account that some Italian consulates are recently asking for passive incomes with some sort of federal guarantee. But this is going to happen only with some of the passive income sources. So my suggestion, as usually I said, is to check the Italian consulate website, to check the Italian consulate checklist before filing the elective residence visa application, because each Italian consulate has its own policy, and this happens even if we have some fixed requirement, requirement fixed by the Italian law. So my suggestion is to check the checklist of the Italian consulate before filing the visa application. Katie also mentioned before the student visa, which is another important option for non-European citizens to get to Italy and remain here for more than 90 days. So foreign-year students that plans to attend courses of study in Italy for a period longer than 90 days can apply for and obtain a student visa. This is possible when the applicant decides to enroll himself with an Italian university, with an Italian private school, or if he wants to study Italian, so he can apply for a student visa for language purposes. For the student visa, it is important to clarify there are at least 3 important requirements. The first one is to demonstrate at the time of the filing of the visa that the applicant is in touch, is in contact with the Italian university or the Italian private school. That he paid, this is the second requirement, that he paid the first deposit, the first installment to the Italian academic institution, and that he has approved, also in this case, of the Italian accommodation. As to the proof of the Italian accommodation, I just want to clarify that you can meet this requirement even just with the B&B or hotel reservations for a few weeks. There's no need for you to have a place to stay in Italy for 12 months, even if the visa will be issued for 12 months, because the B&B reservation or hotel reservation would be sufficient at least to get the visa. As you are aware, once you get the visa, you will be free to travel to Italy and remain in Italy under the student visa, attend a course of study at the university or at the private school. The things that you need to take into account that, as Katie mentioned before, you are required, there is a minimum of hours that you are required to follow lessons in Italy, which is 20 hours per week. But the student visa will allow you to also work in Italy for maximum 20 hours per week. So there is a minimum hours for you to attend a course of study and a maximum hours per week for you to work in Italy. So you are totally free under the student visa to work in Italy, even remotely, and complete the course of study, which, this is another important thing, would give you the chance to convert the visa for study reasons into a work visa. I want to clarify about this specific aspect, that when you register yourself with a university course of study or a master program, okay, at the end of the course of study, you can apply for the conversion of the permit to stay, which is going to be for work reasons, which means that this is important. This is a valid solution for people that want to live and work in Italy, but they do not meet the requirement to get an Italian work visa. As to the Italian work visas, we have a lot of options, but today we are going to talk about a couple of peculiar options for non-European citizens to get to Italy for work reasons only. Generally, it is possible to apply for a visa only during a certain period of time during the year, and there is a maximum number of applications that can be filed and accepted by the Italian consulate. These maximum numbers is established by the Italian government, and this is the reason why, even when the applicant meets all the requirements to get the work visa, it is not possible to be 100% sure that he will get the work visa. So for such reason, today, we are just going to touch a couple of visa options for the non-European citizen to work in Italy for more than 90 days. The two options that we are going to touch today are the European Blue Card and the intra-company transfer. The European Blue Card is for people for workers, for non-European workers that are highly qualified worker who want to move to Italy and work here in Europe for more than 90 days. The European regulation identifies that workers as highly qualified workers if they are in possession of an higher educational certificate issued by a competent authority in their own country, which attests that the completion of the post-secondary higher program, education program, of course, of minimum 3 years, or a higher professional qualification, for example, a master program. The applicant should have, in this specific case, if he wants to apply for the European Blue Card and get the visa to work in Italy, he should have a pre-contract, a job offer from an Italian company, which means that this is the main requirement for the non-European worker who want to apply for the European visa and work in Italy. Before filing the visa application, the Italian company should apply for a sort of green light certificate, which is called in Italian nulla osta. The timing to get the nulla osta certificate from the Italian police station, the process to get this certificate generally takes 30-40 days minimum, and only once the Italian company obtains the European nulla osta, the applicant then can file the visa application with the Italian consulate. So without the green light certificate, it is not possible to file the visa application. The European Blue Card, based on the nulla osta issued by the Italian police station, will give the applicant the chance to access to the European labor market, which means that the worker will be considered and treated as a European citizens, and will give him the chance to bring his family members to Italy. So once he obtained the European visa, he will have the chance to bring into Italy his family members, regardless of the duration of his visa or the permit to stay that he will receive from the Italian police. After the intra-company transfer, I mentioned, after the European Blue Card, I mentioned the intra-company transfer. In this specific case, this is another work visa that would allow to the non-European citizen to get to Italy and remain here for more than 90 days. But this is only applicable to workers of non-European companies which have at least a branch in Italy. So also in this specific case, before applying for the visa, the company needs to apply for the green light certificate I mentioned before, which is going to be the most important document for the non-European citizen to get the visa from the Italian consulate. At that point, I mean, only after receiving the visa, he can move to Italy and work in Italy. I also mentioned the investor visa. The investor visa, it's a 2-year visa for non-European citizens who choose to invest in strategic assets for Italy's economic and society. The non-European citizen can invest his money in Italian companies, in government bonds, in Italian innovative startup, or in Italian philanthropic initiatives. Also in this case, he would be required to get the nulla osta, the green light certificate I mentioned before filing the visa application with the Italian consulate. In this case, the procedure, the application process is completely online. So he can find the application online, and after 30, 40 days, he will get the feedback from the Italian authority. Once he obtained the green light certificate, he can then file the visa application. It is important to understand that once he obtains the visa, he will be totally free to Italy and file the permit to stay application based on the visa issued by the Italian consulate. Only at that time, the applicant is required to invest his money. There is no need for him to invest the money in the Italian government bonds, in the Italian company, in the philanthropic initiatives, before obtaining the green light from the Italian authority and before moving to Italy. Another important visa that we have in Italy for non-European citizens is the health visa. So the visa for medical reasons. In some cases, individuals in need of specialized medical treatment can obtain a visa for health reasons. Proper medical documentation in this case are required, demonstrating that the necessity for the non-European citizen to obtain medical care in Italy. It is important to clarify that the medical visa will give the applicant the chance to bring in Italy also is a caregiver. So in this specific case, there are actually at least 2 people that can obtain the visa and move to Italy under this category of Italian visa. Regardless the option that you are going to go through, once the applicant obtains the visa, he is totally free to get to Italy. At that point, he will have maximum 8 business days to file the permit to stay application. In Italian is permesso di soggiorno. The permit to stay application should be filed with the Italian postal office. They will schedule an in-person meeting at the questurer's office. During the meeting, the applicant will be fingerprinted, and at that point, after generally at least a couple of months, he will be required to get back to the Italian questurer's office and collect the permit to stay. Once he has the permit to stay in his hands, actually I should say after filing the permit to stay application with the postal office, the visa will be no longer valid, which means that if you have a visa valid for 1 year, it's not going to be valid anymore. The duration of your stay in Italy will be indicated within the permit to stay card, regardless of the duration of the visa that you got from the Italian consulate. I want also to clarify there are some important documents that are common for all the visa options I mentioned so far. We have the proof of the applicant address in the residency in the jurisdiction of the Italian consulate where he's going to file the visa application. So he needs to demonstrate that he has an address in the area covered by the Italian consulate. Another important document that he needs to file is the visa application, of course. Then we have the declaration for mailing passport, because it's important to clarify that after filing the visa, the applicant will have 2 options to collect the visa. He will be able to book an appointment with the Italian consulate just to collect in person his passport, or he can just declare at the time of the filing of the visa application when he wants to receive back his visa. Nick, do you want to jump in? Are you saying something?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was very interesting, guys. It's what Antonio has presented is the basically the background. And as he was saying, each consulate has its own sets of rules, policies, and websites. And the very first challenge people usually face is that they start this plan, this stream, this process with information they have gathered from the experience of other people who processed their own paperwork through a different consulate, and they might find themselves completely off track because the consulate for their jurisdiction has adopted completely different practice, different policies. So, and not only you want to watch the consulate website content, but also you want to take into consideration that the website might not be fully updated. That is another challenge, unfortunately. So you need to be cautious. Sometimes you might want to reach out to the consulate to ask if the information is up to date. Sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't. So for standard situations that fit exactly in one of the categories that Antonio described, it might be sufficient to do the homework, check the consulate checklist, discuss with the consulate, and take it on your own. However, and that is part of what we do. We all, many people like to double check it before they go on their own. You don't have to hire an attorney or a lawyer for a visa. It's not mandatory. It's not required. But if you contact someone who processes the type of applications, you half an hour, 45 minutes talk with an expert might save you a wasted trip to the consulate because you have to go there in person now, and might help you planning with a little bit more expectations that things might go smoothly. And then obviously there's always the chance that something crazy might happen, like they hire someone new at the consulate, and what was the law at that consulate after the day before suddenly changes. Just a quick anecdote, something that happened to one of our clients. They went there, family, two parents and a child, went to the consulate, and in the morning, an appointment, they filed their 3 applications, because visa applications are personal. You cannot even put a minor on your own application. So 3 people, 3 applications, and with their nice set of documents that we have helped them preparing: marriage certificate, bank statements, everything. The person at the window, the representative of the consulate, said, "So there are 3 applications here, right?" "Yes, there are 3 applications, 3 of us. Here we are." "Okay, so why there's only 1 stack of supporting documents?" "Oh, because we were members of the same families. We are married to each other. So 1 marriage certificate, and everything belongs to our family. Bank accounts are in both names." So, no. This is 1 application. See, here is personal, individual. So you better rush out, find a Staples or whatever, make photocopies that come back. We close at 3. So they rushed out, super worried. After 2 hours, we were able to make it back at noon. They went back, and that representative had gone. There was another representative welcoming them, and they filed it all like stressed out, but so happy they were able to make it. And the other representative said, "So what's this? 3 applications?" "Yes." "So, but are you guys related to each other?" "Yes, we are husband, wife, and son, 8-year son." "Okay, so what's this? Like, what are these documents?" "There's the 3 copies, 1 for each application." "Oh, I don't need them. It's obviously you are just 1 family, I just need 1 stack of paper. Why do you want to overwhelm us with all this paperwork? I don't need this. Bring it back with your home, whatever." So, and that was within the same day, the same consulate. So just be patient. Now, we changed our policies because of that. And in our coaching before the visa application, we include a number of challenges or prudent approaches that you might want to have, just to make sure you don't go through a wasted appointment and time, because appointments are sometimes challenges to make. So we say, bring 2 photocopies. There are 2 of you, and worst case scenario, you use that in your fireplace to start your fire, or whatever. But the point is just be prepared that nothing is written in stone. And even at the consulate level, consulates change over time. Each consulate has their own ideas, and even countries. The cultural, geographic, socioeconomic structure of a country might change the policies dramatically. Like in India, for example, they will not be satisfied just with the marriage certificate. They want to see the pictures of your wedding and the presents register for. So it's because people make fake marriages to get to Italy. So just because, you know, being married to an Italian automatically entitles you to get a visa. So that is to say, there is a standard group of applications that might just require a quick, you know, check up with an expert before you go there. And then there is the majority of cases we see really are the unique situations, which are the ones that are almost there with the requirements, but they miss something. Like Antonio was saying, the elective residency visa is to go to Italy for good, for life. But who wants to commit to that, really, in this world where everything changes, you know, like so suddenly? So obviously there are ways to portray the message to the consulate that you want to go to Italy, experience Italy, and then, you know, whatever happens, happens. And yes, this is once in a lifetime, but what if you have something critical that brings you back home, and then you want to give it another shot after a few years because your situation changed? We've seen those situations. So there are always exceptions, and that's where obviously lawyers come, you know, might come to help, and finding the rules that might help you with, you know, getting to those requirements. And one of the things that Kathy was mentioning earlier, and thank you very much for bringing it back, for bringing it up, was citizenship. That is another way to go to Italy. Antonio, it would be great if you could talk briefly about that. Basically, you would be able to go to Italy without even a visa if you had Italian ancestors. And so, Antonio, do you have? Can you?
Yeah,
Just very quickly, because we are unfortunately running out of time, and we want to leave some time for questions. Yeah, please go ahead.
That was the last point that I wanted to touch today, because as you mentioned, there are actually two exemptions. So I said before that generally it is necessary to get the visa for the non-European citizen before getting to Italy. However, we have two important exemptions. The first one you mentioned at the beginning of this workshop, that was the Carta di Soggiorno. So when the applicant has an European spouse or an Italian spouse who is registered or plans to be registered as resident with an Italian municipality, an Italian comune, there is no need for him to apply for the visa. He will be totally free to get to Italy without a visa. And after completing the residency registration of his or her spouse, he will be free to get the permit to stay, the Carta di Soggiorno, the card to stay I mentioned before. There is no need to go through the Italian consulate before getting to Italy. There is no need to obtain anything else from the Italian consulate before moving to Italy. Another important exception, as Nick mentioned before, is the Italian citizenship. When the applicant has an Italian ancestor, at least one Italian ancestor, and the Italian ancestor never naturalized, or the bloodline the applicant will go through has been not interrupted, it is possible to get to Italy and file the citizenship application in Italy without obtaining a visa from the Italian consulate, without obtaining the green light certificate I mentioned before. He is totally free to investigate his Italian bloodline, obtain the confirmation that the bloodline has not been interrupted, 2014, and then he will be totally free to get to Italy, register himself as Italian resident, and file the citizenship application. This is this is one of the most important point, let me say, for non-European citizens who want to move to Italy and remain in Italy for more than 90 days. So you should investigate your family situation to understand if you have at least one Italian ancestor. We can help you with that. We can understand if your ancestor naturalized or if the bloodline has been interrupted by naturalization, which is the main requirement for the non-European citizen to file the citizenship application, iure sanguinis, in Italy. I don't know, Nick, if you want to add something about the citizenship application process.
Yeah, I think there's so much that we could say about every single thing that you mentioned.
Kathy mentioned the 1948 case before, so which is a completely different procedure that may give the applicant to get to Italy, for example.
That's another option too, and that's the point. Like, there is the law, there are the requirements, and then there are so many I don't want to say gray zone areas, but unique situations, let's say. There is so much potential for flexibility. You can really flip from one situation to another. Like, people might contact us for an elective residence visa, and then we find out they have a condition that is not really that is cured differently in Italy, and we could put them on a medical trial in Italy, medical trial that is not allowed under the FDA in the US, for example, and they get their visa under medical reasons. And actually, the most satisfactory, humanly, the most really satisfactory situations are when people contact us for really to have the opportunity to go through Italian medical trials that are not available in the US, just because, medical trials are always coming up. Hospitals do researches in several fields, and there are some that are not available in the US, and vice versa, by the way, obviously. And the same goes with the student visa that Kathy mentioned, and Antonio also touched a few points about that. Like, you need to attend, like, you need to register with a school that has a certain amount of hours a week, but it doesn't really mean that you have to physically go to school, because people will get concerned. Like, they have to go there in person. There's flexibility there too. So there are many options, many ways you can adapt your situation. At least that's our job. That's what we see. It's like, a doctor at the ER, they only see when people need help. And that's what we see. Probably, all crazy situations, people come to us. I don't remember ever having said a person, there's no way you can get it to Italy. Perhaps the ways that are available are not necessarily suitable for that person, or that person doesn't want to take the chance, because there are obviously certain situations that have a little bit more success chances than others, obviously. But yeah, yeah, I think, Antonio, you covered all the main options. And so if Aiden, if you agree, I would just go to the question and answer sessions at this point.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in. Antonio, so did you finish like the points that you were going to touch on? I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to go to the Q&A. Ghana says, how does dual citizenship work between Italy and the USA?
Well, currently both countries accept the option for people to be dual citizens, if that is the question. And if it is immigration-wise, obviously, if you're a dual citizen, you don't have to worry about anything. You can move to Italy, you can go to Italy, stay as long as you want. Don't have to worry about anything. Just remember that there is a fundamental rule that at border they will enforce, which is they want you to enter Europe with the European passport, and they want you to enter the US or your home country with the home country, the US in this case, passport. And if you don't have an Italian passport when you go to Italy, it will not be a huge problem. They might give you a little bit of a hard time, but not too crazy. Once again, a little anecdote about my personal life. I just acquired my U.S. citizenship, and I was waiting for my U.S. passport, and I had a trip planned to go to Italy. So I went to Italy, and on my way back to the U.S., somehow came up that I was a US citizen with a check-in, and they said, okay, I need your US passport. I didn't have it. I said, I just became a citizen. I don't have it. And they didn't want me to board the plane. It was with my wife, 3 kids, much younger than what they are now. And I said, wife, here's, keys to the house, the car, here's bags. I'm sorry. They are, obviously I tried with U.S. airline representatives and everything. No way. They said, go to the embassy. It's Saturday. I have 3 kids, my wife. Like, do you see us? No. U.S. citizens enter. I said, yeah, I did the ESTA. Are you crazy? So I said, okay, you know what? I played my lawyer card. Sorry. I said, okay, I'm an immigration attorney. At that point I was. I'm an immigration attorney. I want your name and the name of everyone who is signing off on this, not me boarding, because I'm going to go through a ton of expenses and issues, and this is not going to end well for someone. And so eventually they allowed me to get on the plane. I said, let me talk with the U.S. Border Control. I talked with the U.S. Border Control, and usually I like to go to the airport 3 hours early, as per the rule of thumb. They say 3 hours early at least. So that allows us a little bit, to try to negotiate our way on the plane. So that is about the dual passport, how it works. Always remember to bring them both, and always remember that you should allow at least 6 months of validity on your passport, ideally, from when you were expected to go back, from your return ticket. It should be from your departure ticket. Some airlines, once again, will claim that it needs to be from your return ticket, 6 months from your return ticket. I hope I answered your question.
Let me add something else. I just want to
Yes.
clarify that the Italian passport will not give you only the chance to remain in Italy for more than 90 days. The Italian passport, which is a European passport, will give you the chance to remain in any other countries of the European Union. So if you want to stay more than 90 days in Spain, in Germany, you will be totally free to get there and remain there without a visa for more than 90 days under the Italian passport. So it is important to understand if the applicant can obtain an Italian passport, can get the recognition of the Italian citizenship through their ancestors.
Yes, that's huge.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge also because you can bring, along with that, you can also have spouse, civil union partner, children, all of them piggyback on your passport basically, and skip the whole visa, as Antonio was saying, all the visa process and all of that, which is so time consuming. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to another question. Hang on, I have so many documents open. Okay, Kelly says, is it easier if US citizens are already residents in the EU, like a resident of France? And is it easier, the ERV for Italy, for somebody via Paris? So is it easier for US citizens if they're already residents in the EU?
No, actually, it's going to be the same procedure. So the applicant will be required to file the visa application, the elective residence visa application in this case, with the Italian consulate based on his address in French. So if he has an address in Paris, he will be required to file the visa application with the Italian consulate in Paris. Without obtaining the visa with the Italian consulate, even when the applicant is registered as resident in another European country, he will not get the chance to remain in Italy for more than 90 days. So also in this case, the visa will be necessary to remain here for more than 90 days.
Okay.
Because they are national visas, so they're not European visas. It's kind of an odd concept, but it is what it is.
Okay, good. That makes sense. Okay, another question. Tony says, does our law firm assist with either the innovative startup visa or the self-employment visa?
Yes, we can. Nick, I don't know if you want to jump in, otherwise I will. Okay, yes, we can, of course, assist you. Although we generally do not suggest to file the visa application, the self-employment visa application, because as I said before, this is one of the standard Italian visas a non-European citizen can apply for, which means that it is necessary before filing the visa application, it is necessary to get the green light certificate I mentioned before. And it is crucial to understand that the null-house application can only be filed with the Italian authority in a certain period of the year. And if you miss to file the null-house application in that period of the year, you will be required to wait 1 year to file the visa application. And just let me add something else. Even when the applicant meets all the requirements to get the self-employment visa, it is not possible to be 100% sure that he will get the null-hosta necessary to obtain the visa. You know why? Because there is only a limited number of null-hosta certificate that can be issued for self-employment reasons. Generally, the Italian government every year issues a new regulation saying that they can issue self-employed null-hosta only for 200, 300 people all over the country. And you can imagine that it is a sort of click day when we have thousands of applicants that file the application for that null-hosta. And if you do not get the null-hosta certificate, you then need to wait 1 year to file again the null-hosta application. And even at the time, you will not be 100% sure that you will get the visa. So you cannot be sure that you will be able to get to Italy under the self-employment visa.
Yeah, so I would like to add something to this. This is very important. It is critical. So when people come to us, many times they come to us for, to go to Italy and stay, and they have a life in the we work mainly with US, Canadian, Australians, British people, and they have their own life in the country. So you have to plan when you're going to leave when you're going to move to another country, and so you have to start setting things in motions months ahead of time, and then sometimes reversing that course might be expensive, if not impossible, or extremely difficult. Like you set in motion things like selling your home, sometimes not only your vehicles, and or leaving your job, giving notice and stuff like that. So one of the things you tell clients, since there is such a limited amount of spot available for self-employment in Italy, Antonio was saying like 200-300 people for 300 spots for all of Italy, and for applicants throughout the world. We don't recommend that, because on the click day, many times even the Italian immigration office server will collapse, because just there are so many people trying to log in, and every time, the day after the opening day, the first day, because they say from March 15 to April 15 you can apply. Well, within few seconds of March 15 at the opening time, the server will either crash or the spots will be gone. So we tell our clients that's kind of almost like the same chances you have to win the lottery ticket, but obviously with less life-changing perhaps results. But however, if you miss that, what do? You have wasted your time, and all the things that you set in motions are for nothing. So we usually recommend spending the same amount of time and energy on some different route that has much higher chances to be successful. And so we never recommend self-employment visa. we've seen people setting up their own company for that reason, spending a ton of time and then being rejected. There's so many stories that you might probably have read already. So we never recommend self-employment visa through that course. Rather, what Antonio was saying, student visa and then convert it. Or 2 years ago, they came up with this historic change. They allow now elective residency visa holders to convert it into a work visa, so into a work immigration permit. So that was not an option, but then they changed the law a couple of years ago. So of course you have to meet some requirements. You need a little bit of homework, a little bit of a plan. But that's another way you can go to Italy, setting up your your plan with the elective residency visa, and then you can apply for a change. Or there are some people who say, you know what, I want really to be self-employed, and then through our interview, we discover that actually what they want to do doesn't qualify as work in Italy, because what they want to do is basically being host of a beautiful mansion somewhere in Abruzzi, for example, as Kathy was saying, or in Tuscany. Well, they want to buy, renovate, and rent their home, real estate to tourists. They want to be hosts, and managing a property doesn't qualify you as a worker. So that would be purely rental income that you can conduct, you can earn, even if you have an elective residency visa. So sometimes people come to us with an idea based on reading, information on a general level, or very personal sometimes to someone else, and they create a kind of some wrong assumptions. So and it is so different in each country what qualify, how I should say, and so that's why it's important to really I talk with people who have experience. And obviously, I'm not suggesting you should go with us necessarily, but just find someone who has done this many times and has a successful track record, and it's definitely worth spending a minute to have someone advising you on your life-changing plans.
Yeah, and I think I would just echo that, that kind of gets back to what Nick was saying earlier about being flexible. That many people come to the law firm and they want to do one thing and they say, this is the path for me. And then after talking to the lawyers, they discover that's not going to work, or that will work, but I need to do something different. They discover other options that they may not have considered that may be a better path. And now let me get to one more question here. Hang on. Okay, let's see. Sophie says, if we're having difficulty reaching a consulate or getting an appointment, what do you suggest we do?
Generally, there's only one process to book an appointment with the Italian consulate. So generally, the applicant is required to create an account on the consulate website and check the Italian consulate to schedule and book the first available time slot. However, when it is not possible to book an appointment with the Italian consulate through their website, my suggestion is to reach them out via email. So they generally take 2, 3, 4 days to get back to the applicant by email, but I expect that they will get back to you with more information to complete the booking procedure and schedule the appointment for the applicant to file the visa application. Except for the email, I may suggest to contact them over the phone, but I think it is best to reach them out by email, because there's the best chance for you to obtain a reply from the Italian consulate. Nick, I don't know, do you want to tell something?
Yeah, definitely. Also, sometimes over the phone, unbelievably, there might be some language barriers. But they work there. How is it possible? Well, sometimes, you might get the wrong representative on the phone. And also, there might be someone, there might the language barrier might create some confusion, misunderstanding. Whereas if you write, you can use those leverage, that leverage I was mentioning earlier, like the empathy, the respect, the make sure that your intent is not to insult their poor scheduling system or lack of organization, but it is to represent your unique situation and asking for, please, a favor if they have any possibility to allow the courtesy to, some courtesy, flexibility in their calendar, because you really want to, and the reasons why you really want to, you really need to humanly. And we have seen that a humanly written, respectful email will go a long way, even with consulates that have a reputation for not being particularly responsive. The more respectful you are, the more humanly you present your situation. Even we as lawyers, when we approach consulates, we never approach them like, you are put a notice to, never. When clients come to us because they have been rejected the visa, and they say, hey, we applied on our own or with someone else, whatever, our visa got rejected, we would like to file an appeal, but we would want assistance, because on the rejection you get, you can appeal this, blah blah blah. You don't want to file an appeal. We don't want to file an appeal. We obviously would be much more, it would cost you A, more money, B, you don't want to fight with the institution that is going to allow you or supposed to allow you to go to Italy. Like, you want to refile it properly. That's it. You want to refile it properly, and just sing the song they want you to sing, and do that dance, and that get you in. That's our recommendation always, because it's just the smoother and easier, quicker path. And so that's why an email, just to wrap this up, as Antonio was saying, is much more advisable than a phone call. Gives you more control.
Okay, everyone, I know we're running long, but I want to squeeze in one more question, because I feel like, we got a lot of really great questions. So let me just get back to one more here. Okay. Can a tourist visa be used to extend the time frame of a visa or bridge the gap between different visas in any way? Like, if you have two different visas, like, how do you bridge the gap between when one ends and one?
Okay.
Can you tell us the country of the, if they mentioned where they? Okay.
No, I
There's no
don't
indication.
see
Okay, that's
anything
fine.
about
That's
that.
fine.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. Antonio, please go ahead.
No, as I said during the workshop, generally the visa is no longer valid once you get to Italy, because you are required to apply for a permit to stay, which means that the duration of your stay is indicated within the permit to stay card. And when you are close at the end of the period indicated within the permit to stay card, you are required to leave or to file the permit to stay application to renew your card. It is not possible to remain in Italy longer of the period indicated within the permit to stay card, only based on the fact that you came from one of the country who signed the visa waiver program I mentioned before. So you cannot add the 90 days to the duration of your permit to stay card. At that point, when your permit to stay card expires, you are required to get back to your country, file another visa application if you want to get back to Italy and remain here for more than 90 days with a completely different permit to stay card. Otherwise, you can apply for the renovation of your permit to stay. So just to give an idea, if you file the visa application for study reasons with the Italian consulate, then you get to Italy for 1 year under the study permit to stay, then you are required to renew your study permit to stay, or to get back to your home country and file another visa application. I don't know if you want to get a work visa instead of a study visa. So actually, it is not possible to add the 90-day period to the duration of the permit to stay card.
And I would like to add something real quick. After Antonio clarified that, which is critical, many people think, oh, okay, my permit is over, but now I can stay needed for another 90 days. No, that you cannot. However, you can use your visa waiver program, if you have it, to help you planning a little bit better. Many people think, okay, in my application, I have to put when my visa will have to start, my first day of entry. And what if I want to be prudent, because the consulate has up to 90 days to answer to me. And sometimes they are super fast. We got a record 3-hour turnaround, which was impossible, unbelievable. But also there are consulates that might take the whole 90 days, sometimes even more than that. So how do you plan? So what we usually recommend people is put on your application that you want to go to Italy within, let's say, 2 months. So the consulate doesn't feel rushed. And at the window, depending on the person you have there, you can tell them, listen, the sooner we can get it, the better, obviously, but we understand you have your workload, you know, you have other applications to process. So whenever possible, we'll appreciate. And then if you happen to get your visa your passport back in the mail after 2-3 weeks, so much earlier than your entry declared date, which is in 2 months, you can still go to Italy based on your passport, even if you are going sooner than what you had mentioned your first entry would be, because your passport allows you to go to Italy on a visa waiver program. And then when you go to Italy, you start the process. And so, because some people think, oh, I cannot go to Italy because I declared my first day of entry will be in 2 months. I'm stuck here. But actually, you're not. You could even go to Italy, do whatever, like set up the house or whatever, go back to the US and go back to Italy. That's also possible. But if you're staying in it for more than 8 days, and that is after the date of the visa start, then you need to register with the immigration permit. And there is one last thing I wanted to add about that vice versa, if you cannot go to Italy on the first day that you had declared, but you go to Italy a week after, a month after, it doesn't matter either. You're not committed. It's not illegal to go to Italy sooner or later, before or after the visa date, the visa start date. There is some flexibility. So depending on the circumstances, you can really set up your plan so that the consulate is not upset that you're not rushing them, and your landlord is not upset that you're not showing up, or the rental agreement is not starting and you're not paying and wasting your money. So there are options, what I'm saying.
Okay, and then because this is a yes or no question, seemingly, I'm going to throw this last one in here. Joseph asks, can you apply for an ERV directly in Italy?
No.
No way. No.
Actually, hold on. Hold on. There are some exceptions. You remember, Antonio? We worked on a couple of exceptions. What were the exceptions? Yeah, there are some exceptions. Very, very rare, actually. Actually, yeah. And when people say, I have a quick question, yes or no question. So we need to profile that person. But actually, there has been also case law about that. There are some very specific situations where, but they're extremely rare and complicated. So, but I wouldn't count on them, let's say. I wouldn't count on them. But once again, never say no, never say never. And if you want to talk more about your case, you can provide us a summary of it. And if we can provide you with a yes or no answer based on the summary, we will be happy to do that. And if we think that we need to ask a few more questions, we can talk about it.
Okay, and that brings us to the end here. Let me just give you a few housekeeping details. Sari's going to put into the chat. She's going to put the link for if anybody wants to set up time to talk to Antonio or Nick. And we also have a bonus for you guys today for the next 30 days. We have a group affiliation code that you can use when you book a consultation. So you can get an additional 15 minutes added to your consultation at no additional charge. So that'll also be in the group chat. So feel free to grab that stuff. I see Sari's just put it in there now. And then we will also, some of the Q&A that we didn't get to, there are probably another few questions that we did not get to because time is really getting away from us here. What we'll do is we'll try to post some of this on our socials. We'll do a little Q&A there. I assume most of you are following us on Facebook already or LinkedIn because you found the registration for this webinar. And the other thing is we are going to do another workshop. We've already got it scheduled for February 3rd, and we haven't decided on the topic. Nick, what did we say we were going to do topic wise?
Well, that's a good point, guys. There's so much that we would like to talk about and share about, our experience, and these are tremendous opportunities to do that because we can share insight, experience that some of it we cannot even post on our social media. So I saw some of the questions that came through, and there will be a direct answer for those questions because some questions imply, are things that we cannot say about consulate. Like, you cannot say the consulate, will react poorly to if you have reasonable expectations over consistency. You know what I mean? So we cannot say anything like that on our social media. So these are great opportunities to have that more open conversation and share information that we cannot share otherwise unless it is a one-to-one paid consultation. So we thought perhaps to give you the opportunity to tell us what you would be interested in. Usually people who are interested in staying in Italy for more than 90 days, they also have other questions about other topics, which might be renting a home in Italy. What are the difficulties, threats, tips, or taxes? What if I go to Italy? What if I get citizenship? What next? What are the tax implications? Or will my will work when I'm in Italy? There are so many options. So we'll come up with a list and do a poll. We were saying, Adrian, perhaps
I
we
think
could
we'll do a little
and let you guys give us some indication about what would interest you most.
So that's it, guys. February 3rd is the next one. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us and for the time. I see we didn't have very many people drop, so that's awesome that you guys stayed with us for this long. And this is so much information, as you know. It's pretty dense. So we really appreciate you guys spending a little time with us on a Saturday. Have a great day wherever you are, and we'll see you in February. Ciao.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.